So, chaps, your net worth's just been obliterated. Happens to the best of us. But now is not the time to panic. Follow these golden rules. Order the same wine you did when you were rich. Never admit you're broke. And remember, the only thing they can't liquidate is your courage.
You're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. What the f*** is going on out here?
What's going on, everyone? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Now, obviously, this was not a video I had anticipated on making. I wasn't planning on really making any videos this weekend, but what happened leading into the weekend was the largest crypto liquidation that we have ever seen, $19.5 billion in 24 hours, 9 times the previous record. So, although percentage-wise, we've definitely seen worse, dollar amount, this was the worst. It was worse than COVID. It was worse than the FTX crash, right? Now, obviously, as you guys know, I've been in crypto for a very long time. I have seen definitely percentages worse than what we saw leading into the weekend. I mean, I remember at the bottom of the 2018 bear market, we dumped 50% for Bitcoin in about 48 hours. So it was like $6,000 down to $3,000. Now, I know that seems crazy to talk about this, now, because in hindsight, obviously buying at 6 or 3 would have been great. But at that time, it really felt like that was the end of the world, right? And what's interesting is I was watching the charts last night. I saw that Bitcoin was moving. I saw it was falling down. Okay, which is crazy because I had just been on the phone with a good friend of mine actually talking about how boring the space had been feeling. And we were kind of hoping for some kind of excitement. Well, be careful what you wish for because we got it, right? Obviously to the downside, but I didn't think much of it, really. I was okay. We're having a correction. We've seen these 30, 40, 50% corrections, whatever. I wake up the next day, I'm reading all these tweets over on X about people getting their accounts wiped out. Look at this. You got some, I don't even know some of these coins, Banana, Solve, IoT, look, down 96%. Now, a lot of these have clearly bounced back at some point, but it was clearly devastating for a lot of the people that were holding the altcoins, right? And that is one thing that I've gotten a little bit of flack on this channel for a while. If this was years ago, we were in the trenches, we were buying altcoins, and we made some really good gains back in the day. We also made some terrible decisions back in the day, but we became more of a, Bitcoin focused channel. And without going into it too much, if you look at the way that altcoins have been performing against the Bitcoin comparative, some of these are so low at this point that even if they were to do a 10x, they still wouldn't be able to get back up to their Bitcoin comparative. I mean, this even goes for high cap coins like Ethereum, right? But nevertheless, it still is detrimental, especially if you're someone who was using leverage. But, this is one of those scenarios in which I always say, 2 to 3x leverage, maybe 5 max. Well, in this particular scenario, no type of leverage was safe, right? And this is what happens when you play these types of games. Now, there was this whale who clearly knew what was going on before it happened and, manipulation, this and that. But guys, this is part of the crypto space. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that these are the games that you play and you know what you're getting involved in. Now, obviously, like my heart goes out to anybody who lost money recently, which, by the way, I am not someone who hasn't lost money, right? I've had smaller positions wiped out. If we go back 5 years ago, a lot of people on this channel might know I had a massive liquidation. I got way too cocky. I had a multi-million-dollar position, right? I was up insane, and I had 8x leverage, right? So if you do the math on that, if 2x for every 1% is 2%, so 50% down, you're wiped out. Well, all I needed was a 12.5% move in the wrong direction. And we got one of these wicks, and I woke up the next day and my account was wiped out, right? So look, guys, I've been there with you. I understand. If you're new and this is happening to you for the first time, well, welcome to the game. I mean, welcome to the party. It's not always fun, but it isn't the end of the road. It's just a lesson to learn from. You'll be better at using your stop losses. You'll start mitigating those percentages to your leverage trades versus your hodl position, right? My hodl positions are always about 98 to 99% at any given day. My leverage positions, they're very far and few between, and I definitely would not be putting my entire balance on leverage. So just to get that out of the way. But moving on to what we are seeing, it wasn't just crypto. I mean, if you come over here and look at the S&P, for example, the S&P, massive red candle. And this was all due apparently to this sort of, thing that Trump came out and said they were going to increase tariffs by 100%. And I mean, these are just some of the things I woke up. You're seeing, lost my life savings, 135K today, officially retiring this account. $9 million gone instantly from Huang BNB. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying, if you think you lost a lot of money, there's some top traders out there. Some of them I know personally, not going to name them, who lost like tons of millions of dollars, like insane amounts of money. Like here you go, $9 million. So it was certainly a rough day. But this is the interesting thing. This came out just a couple hours ago, saying that the news about China's rare earth export controls came out about the same time. And apparently this was a non-event until the whole 100% tariff increase tweet or comment was mentioned by the president, and this was the largest crypto liquidation in history. And the thing is if you actually look historically, every time we've had this sort of reaction from the markets when it comes down to these tariff news, they've actually always been bottoms, right? And generally speaking, when you see this type of a move, again, I know there's tons of accounts on Twitter. You're going to be over there following them. They're saying the top is in. Look, maybe they got wiped out. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who these gurus are. I'm kind of old school here, so I get it. Like, I'm not the coolest kid on the block anymore. I've been in this for 10 years, so there's much more fun and crazy altcoin, meme coin, trench accounts that everybody's following. But to see these people panicking like this, it's kind of like sending me mixed signals over here, because I literally wasn't even worried about this until I woke up the next morning and started hearing all these terrible things about people's accounts getting wiped out. It's the end of the world. This isn't even that bad of a move. I mean, for maybe the altcoins, but not even so much for Bitcoin. If we come over here, we have fear at about 25, which historically speaking is an amazing time to be accumulating. I don't know. I can't even say crypto, because most of these cryptos, these altcoins, are down horribly against their. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys watch Benjamin Cowan, right? He's very about the Bitcoin dominance and all that stuff. We've hung out. He's a really cool dude. I like his stuff. I agree with him, right? A lot of it, if you just pay attention to the Bitcoin dominance, the best trade has been to buy, accumulate, and hold Bitcoin over the last 4 years. Now, I know that you may get these altcoin runs. You may get these 10x, 20x runs. They happen in a month. You feel like you're missing out. But again, I don't have the charts pulled up. I don't have all that stuff. But if you look at most of these compared to their Bitcoin comparative, right? So instead of like Solana / USDT, you do Solana / BTC. You'll see the difference in the chart. I'm not picking on Solana. I'm just using a coin as an example. And you'll see that really Bitcoin was the safest play. It was not even the safest. It actually made the most sense percentage-wise, right? And a lot of these gurus, every single day, it's alt season, it's alt season, it's alt season. No, it's not alt season. It's alt season for some, right? Some coins come out, they do great. The AI narrative, boom, you see some altcoins. The perp dex narrative, boom, you see that, right? BNB came out with a bunch of stuff. BNB is up. Okay, great. BNB actually has been a very good performer. That was a really bad choice. But outside of that, a lot of them are really not keeping up, right? And that's kind of why we've been saying this on the channel. And as far as the fear and greed index is concerned, everyone else is freaking and panicking and selling out. And you got Tom Lee, his Bitmine has acquired 128,000 plus Ethereum, about 480 million during this crash. So that's what's happening. And I'm not saying it's you guys. It's the people out there that are new, that are feeling that Bitcoin is too expensive. They missed the boat. They want to make a 10x, a 20x, right? So what are they forced to do? They're forced to go into the trenches. They got to buy these altcoins, speculatively. They don't believe in them. It's just their friend or some influencer on X said this coin's going to do a 20x. So they buy it. It starts doing good. And then what happens when what hits the fan? Bitcoin's down, like 6% today, 5% today. Okay, yeah, it did like a 60. I don't even know what it did. 16%. We could actually measure it from the top right here. What did we even have in that move from top to bottom? So, you figure go from the top of the wick all the way down, a 16% crash, okay? And now, where are we from the actual top of the entire market? Bitcoin is down 9%. 9% off the all-time high. And the markets are literally acting as if this is the end of the world. This is telling me that there are way too many people in speculative investments with insane leverage, with no conviction, that are just gambling, right? And again, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I'm not again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just trying to be the voice of reason here, which is why I've said, majority of the portfolio, it needs to go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a totally different animal. Ethereum, sure, Ethereum is the best of the layer 2s, right? But I always like to make this analogy. Bitcoin is like digital gold. It is what it is. You can't go take gold unless you're like an alchemist of some sort and turn gold into something else, right? Bitcoin is Bitcoin. There's not going to be a second or third. There is no other Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. That's it, right? Everything else is a play, right? Ethereum could be the winner. But I don't know if you guys remember, for me, when I was young, I had a Nokia phone. Nokia was the coolest phone on the market. They had the original Snake, all that other stuff. Everyone had one. And then, the Razor came out and all these other. And then what happened? All those phones got completely destroyed when the iPhone came out. And the iPhone changed the game. The first iPhone sucked, by the way. It was terrible. People were making fun of it, saying it would never last, right? But that's what I'm saying. There's so many different layer 2s. There's so many different perp dexes. There's so many different AI tokens, right? We don't know which one is going to be the best. We know Bitcoin is the best. If that's not really up for debate. If it still is up for debate, then I would like to see the evidence to somebody show me the better store of value, at least in the crypto space, when it comes to Bitcoin, right? So, having a look right here at the chart, just to talk about this a bit, you could see that although we did have this wick, we actually closed down inside of this purple zone, which was this area of interest right here. So we did technically flip this previous area of resistance into support. Now, the area that we really want to look to close above is, remember how we were talking about we had this head and shoulders pattern, which, by the way, it did play out, okay? Nobody, I don't care who you are, nobody saw this flash crash coming. So we had our head and shoulders pattern. This was the neckline right here, and we broke out. So what Bitcoin is attempting to do right now is to come back up to that neckline. Now, that area is around 115,000. I would imagine there might be a little bit of difficulty breaking through that. I could see us come up here and maybe consolidate, a little bit more before having that move to the upside. So let me get into just talk about the charts, because I don't really want to drag this video on. I don't know really what else to talk about except that there's really nothing that says the bull run is over or this will. In fact, you don't see moves like this at the top. You see moves like this at the bottom. I could show you that historically time after time again. But yeah, I mean, for everybody out there that got hurt, if you lost money, look, we've all lost money. I've lost money. I've lost insane amounts of money. You think every single coin, every single token, every single trade I took over the last 10 years was a winner? Anyone telling you that is a liar, okay? I've lost, I don't know, arguably, I don't know if I've lost more than I've made. I don't know. But I know long term, you can make the money back. It's okay. It's not the end of the world if you lost money. We all have lost money, right? So I just want to have a look at this chart right here. The one thing that I'm looking at, which is really interesting, is that Bitcoin is still holding above this legacy trend line. And if we can really close basically where we are right now as I'm making this video, then structurally, as crazy as that seemed, nothing. In fact, let me put this on a line chart. It's a lot easier to see. You could see right here how it's acted as the resistance. If you look at where we are right now, we're actually sitting above this legacy trend line, right? So, I mean, that trend line is sitting at roughly about 112,700. So, by the end of today, if we close above this level, that's just confirming that we are still on this upwards trend. In fact, this massive parallel channel that we've had pretty much since the FTX crash, if we zoom in right here, yeah, we wicked out of it, but you don't really count these wicks. You count the closes. If we close, we're still closing at the bottom of this area, which is quite interesting because we had this 0.786 at 101, and where did Bitcoin come down to? It came down to 103.3. So we were only about $2,000 off of that bottom area, with our next resistance from this area, if we were to pump, at about 129,000. Now, I don't know if we're going to go to that overnight, but what is interesting is even when you look at these futures, because obviously these markets are closed over the weekends, we had a perfect bounce right here on the top area, right? So we had Bitcoin consolidating in this bull flag right here. And if we look at where we touched right on the top. This is super bullish. I mean, you literally flipped the resistance into support. Now, we do have to see what happens because we have a CME futures gap down here at around 111,000, right? So I do think there is a possibility that we close this gap. It's very close. We're not that far off from it. It is a possibility to see this gap get closed, right? We may even create another gap in the process. Who knows? There is one way down here at around 91,000, which keep in mind, they have a pretty high chance of closing about 88%-ish roughly. But they don't all close, right? We have one, I believe, down at around 6,000 that, or 6 or 9, I forget, that never got closed. And so yeah, keep your eye on that. I think that could happen. But another thing that's interesting is, we could either close it tomorrow or we could bounce back up, do something like this, fake out and then come back down, providing yet another, right, support of the previous resistance and then close the gap. So, those are just some potential possibilities. But if you have a look at the longer term, I like to look at the bigger picture. What we see right here is a beautiful, beautiful structure of the moving averages moving low to high. And what's interesting is the 50 moving average, which is normally considered the, you better watch out, right? average, this has had a lot of support. And when you see support on the 50, generally, you're in an uptrend. And that's what we've been doing. And something like back here, right, where you have a bearish crossover, as you guys can see right here, the 21 exponential moving below, and then having the price move below the 50 for more than, a few weeks at a time, that's generally when you're looking to go into the bear market. Well, that is not what we're looking at right now. We're actually looking at a perfect test. In fact, if you want to look at the EMA ribbon compared to some of the crashes, look at this one right here. I mean, granted, this ended up, what was this? This was the week of August 5th. This was last year. This right here had, and it did close green. This was a 20% right there in the week. And this was worse than what we saw today. This one right here, back here, right? This actually wicked down below the EMA ribbon band. This one right here that we had back around March earlier this year, this could arguably be worse. And what we're seeing right here, I mean, we only came down right here to one of the middle EMAs, right? We didn't even come all the way down to the bottom. The lowest case would be 97, with the total bearish case being 86. And we only got about halfway down through that. So historically speaking, this wasn't even one of the worst crashes we had ever seen. And look, right now we are seeing resistance on this downwards bear flag. Oh, excuse me, bull flag, not bear flag. So yeah, I mean, what I would be looking for was keep your eye on that CME futures gap. If we do open, we may have a chance to go down around 111,000 at some point. I'm not saying it has to be next week, but I would like to get it out of the way sooner than later, right? That's just me. I'd rather close it now than, close it later. But this area of volume range, most important area around 117,000. So the next area we really got to pay attention to is 115,000. If we flip 115,000 and we hold it for over a week. I mean, really you want to get above 117, but in between these areas is what you're looking at, ultimately breaking out of this. I think the fact that we're already moving to the top is pretty interesting. And if you have a look down here, this is the daily chart, but you could see that we do have some rollover here on this market cipher, and you may be looking for it to come down something like this, form another anchor wave, right? Potentially have another sell-off into that trigger. And then when you get something like this, that's when you get those moves again. So I don't know, maybe you get something like this coming down, a little bit of maybe we don't even go that high. Maybe we go to like here, and then you get your trigger, and then you go. I mean, it's something like that. But my point that I'm trying to make here is that you're really not seeing anything too ridiculous. Like, for example, Credible says, Asta says, I don't understand how we go up from here. Nobody has any money anymore. Well, these were the same words like they said that were said during the COVID crash. I don't know who's buying here. Nobody has any more money. Same thing, FTX. I don't know who's buying here. Nobody has any more money. Well, someone has money. Somebody always has money, right? Whether it be, Michael Saylor, these big institutions, these Wall Street players, these are the opportunities that they wait for. They look for these opportunities, and they are going to buy at these levels, right? And when you think about what's happening is, you're just giving back the money to these people, right? Bitcoin and crypto was started as this revolution, anti-banks, anti-Wall Street, and yet here we are allowing ourselves to be, manipulated essentially by the same things that happen in the traditional market. And yes, this is extremely illegal. Of course it is, but people are going to do it anyway, right? I can't stop it. You can't stop it. It's going to happen regardless. So, this is just what happens, and they will come in and they will swoop up at these levels. If you look at these cycles, there could be some people saying that maybe we only have 30 days left of the 4-year cycle. Maybe that's what's going on. But if you actually follow the liquidity cycles, some people call them the business cycles, we actually saw a bit of an anomaly this time. because you could see we actually stayed in the red for much, much longer than we had anticipated while actually continuing to the upside. So it's been a very diminishing sort of return, but anytime you start going into the green, okay, this is where you start to build those massive, massive moves, and we just got our first one. So, people that are freaking out, a shout out to Decode Jar again for this, Bitcoin has never topped when the Bollinger Bands were this tight, okay? When there was this massive, we did just get some crazy volatility just now, I'm not gonna lie. But if you look at the last instances in which we had a scenario, now you might say, well, what about this right here? Yeah, but this one is different. This one is different because, look, this center line is the basis, this blue line, right? This was sitting below it, okay? So yeah, you could say that this was really, really tight and we dumped, but that's not what we're having right here. What we're having right here is a very tight Bollinger Band setup with Bitcoin above the basis. The same thing right here. Very tight Bollinger Band with Bitcoin above the basis, right? Same thing right here. Bitcoin above the basis. In this instance, Bitcoin was below the basis, right? So this does not count. This is the same setup as this. And if you look at what we're doing right now, we're pushing up on it and we're tightening, okay? So you've never seen ever a bear market with these types of conditions, not to mention the fact that if we just overlay all of our cycle indicators on top of each other, we are literally only around 75%, okay? 75 to 80%. So yeah, we're not saying that the market, is going to super cycle, Bitcoin's just going to go up for the next 10 years. But what we are saying is that this is not a top. This is a washout. This is resetting liquidation. It's got some manipulation involved in it, of course. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to make this video to let you guys know that I feel for people that were in crazy altcoins. And do I think altcoins will perform well? Not all of them. I think some of them will, right? But, as far as the cycle and the doom and gloom and all this, if you weren't in leverage and you weren't holding tons of altcoins, it really wasn't that, like I said, I was just looking at the chart like, oh, wow, look, Bitcoin's having a crazy move to the downside. Wow, kind of haven't had this in a while, whoa, there we go. There's Bitcoin just being Bitcoin. And then waking up the next day and realizing how detrimental it was to the entire space, it really just, if anything, just take this opportunity as a lesson. You will make your money back if you lost money. Trust me, you will. You might think it's over. You might think it's the end of the world. Guys, I've been there. I've been the guy that held for too long, right? Made the 1000x only to lose it all. I've been that guy. I should just make a video. I'll just tell you about all my losses, right? How many people would do that? Just, here's all my losses, guys. Here's all the times I lost, right? But the reason that I was able to be successful in this space is because I stuck it out. I learned from my mistakes. You got it. You have to make your mistakes, Someone can tell you, I could tell you all day, don't do this. But you know what? Don't listen to me. Do what you want at the end of the day. But this is those times, these lessons you learn. The good news is that I don't believe the cycle's over. This is my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm just a guy on the internet. Everything that I'm seeing is showing us that we still have some more to go. If you are down, maybe you can get back into some of these altcoins. Some of them might actually make their gains back, but also just it's a good opportunity to sort of reevaluate your strategy, balance your portfolio a little bit better. Maybe not telling you what to do, a little higher weighted Bitcoin. The highest should probably be Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then after that, have fun with your 5%. If you lose 5% or you lose 10% of your portfolio, okay, you still got the other 90%. But if you throw 90% of your portfolio, or like that other guy, $9 million into a leverage trade, that's just irresponsible, right? And you might need to call a certain hotline because you might have a problem. So that's where I'm going to end it today. Like I said, I had nothing really planned for this video. I don't even know that I came across with the things I wanted to say in my mind. I have so much more to say. But hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. It's all right. You'll be okay. Again, just like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Learn from a lesson. We all go through this. At the end of the day, it wasn't really that big of a deal on the Bitcoin chart. But I guess it was a lot worse for some of the altcoins. So that's kind of where I'm going to end today. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, this is why for the last, 3-4 years, we've been saying, just try to get as much Bitcoin as possible. And it might suck now because it's over 100,000. Maybe you're new to the channel, but for everyone that's been watching, I certainly hope that we've been making videos since Bitcoin was $3,000. I don't really know what more we could have done. But yeah, I'm going to end the video here. That's about it, guys. So thank you so much again for coming back to the channel. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed. If you enjoyed this video, just go relax, go for a walk outside, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. You're going to do fine. We're all going to be okay. So until next time, guys, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.